I have seen some discussion out there that it's becoming common for people to use more than one LLM. Ask them all the same question, look at the results, and try to find the best answer. I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to use the same LLM and ask it the same question twice and see if it comes up with the same code solution. I'm using Windsurf, and I'm going to ask it to create a basic Python Flask CRUD application. First, we'll start with the global rules, so we're all on the same page. All right, so here's my global rules. This will apply to both projects. It says you are an expert Python Flask and Bootstrap developer. And I had this in here from a previous project. I guess I'll leave it. It shouldn't hurt anything. You're an expert software architect, and you build event-driven architecture with Kafka. All your code must sanitize user input on the client and server side to prevent SQL injection and other attacks. All fields must have reasonable size limits and max lengths. Field lengths and data types are to be protected on the client and server side. All your front-end code must be responsive, ensuring that it displays and works properly across mobile, tablet, and desktop resolutions. I do not want you to use any inline styles. All CSS should be in CSS files like style.css. This project will use Playwright for end-to-end tests. Each feature you add will require a Playwright test to be created and modified as the project takes shape. So not all of these will apply directly to this simple project, but I'll leave them in there. I don't think they will negatively affect anything. So prior to starting this video, I did a little bit of groundwork. I created two different directories. I used Windsurf to create virtual environments, and I have two separate Windsurf windows open here. Both are set to use Claude 3.5 Sonnet, and I have some project details that I'm just going to copy and paste in here. So I'll start in window number 1, again using Claude 3.5 Sonnet. I'm saying I need you to create a to-do list CRUD web app. The tech stack will be Python, Flask, Bootstrap, and SQLite. Create a .gitignore file that contains appropriate entries for this tech stack. Each entry should have a title, description, due date, and priority. I should be able to drag and drop an entry to change its order. The UI should be modern and responsive. Use flash messages to give visual feedback when items are created, edited, or deleted. Use port 5000 for the web server. By default, it would use 5000, but since I'm doing two projects, in the second window, I'm probably going to ask it to use port 5001, so there's no conflict. So I don't expect a lot of back and forth with Windsurf. I'm going to submit this, and maybe we can get away with a single prompt. Let's see. Okay, first we're starting with the gitignore file. Okay, this looks pretty typical. Requirements.txt with some Flask stuff, WT forms, Playwright stuff. Okay, that looks normal. And now creating app.py. Okay, the usual imports. The class for the to-dos. Okay, a couple of routes. Okay, and we'll be doing port 5000 debug equals true, which means that it should automatically detect if there's any code changes and not have to restart the server. It says error while editing base.html, which I don't think exists yet. Interesting. Okay, yep, first it needs to create the templates directory. Let's see if we can do this directly. Okay, looks like that worked. There's the templates directory. Now it's creating base.html where it errored out up here. Now the directory exists, so it should be able to make it. There it is. Okay, looks like a basic Jinja template. We'll accept that. And now the index.html file. Okay, that one took a while. 117 new lines. Okay, looks like basic divs and forms. We'll accept that. Making a new directory for static JS and CSS. There's a style sheet. I remember in my global rules, I asked it to create a style.css and not use inline styles. Sometimes it does use inline styles, and I prefer this method. And scripts.js. Okay, looks like we're going to have some Ajax-y stuff on the flash messages and on the sorting. Okay. And it's creating some Playwright stuff. If you watched some of my other videos, you might remember that I have struggles with Playwright and AI development tools. It takes a while to get a basic framework off the ground, and just seem to have a lot of struggles. That's not the point of these videos, though. But we'll just let it go through its motions here. Okay, here's the Playwright file, some asserts, page locators, all basic good stuff here. And it gave me a README file. Okay, not sure how accurate that is, but for our purposes here, I'll just accept it. Okay, gonna make sure we're using the virtual environment, and we are in there already, so that should be fine. Actually, it's trying to make a new one. It's trying to make one that is not .venv. That was not my intention. I should have caught that earlier, but okay, for our purposes, it's not the end of the world. I'll just accept it and let it go. Okay, it installed all this stuff into the venv. Now we're installing Playwright. I'm on Linux Mint, and Playwright usually complains about some Ubuntu stuff. Okay, let's see if that starts up. Okay, we'll go to port 5000 and see what it built for us. Okay, I think I accidentally just shut it down with Control C when I tried to copy, so that's my fault. I'll right-click copy this time. Okay, that looks pretty good already. Let's just add something here. Due date, priority medium. Okay, created successfully. Can I edit this? Cool, there's my flash message. Let me see if I could do my drag and drop reorder here. Okay, looks like I have a cursor here for reordering. Title 1, Title 2. Okay, that looks pretty cool. Let me just jump in and take a look at the database that it made for us real quick. Okay, we have a table for to do. These are the items that I just created, and here's the order. Okay, this looks pretty clean. It's pretty decent for a first iteration, I think. Let me jump over to editor number 2, though. I'm going to ask it to do the same exact thing. We're starting with a clean editor over here in this window. I'm going to ask it to do the same thing, but use port 5001 this time. I want to see, does it create the same exact thing? Let's see. Starting again with the .getignore. Requirements Already some of this stuff looks like it's in a little bit of a different order. Going back to the first window just to look at requirements in here. The last two entries were playwright and PyTest playwright. And the other window, the last two entries are WT forms and Flask WTF. Playwright is a little bit higher. That's not a big deal, but it does show already that things might be a little bit different. Here's app.py. Has to create the directory for static. App.py in the second window is 91 lines. If you go back to the first window, app.py is 82 lines. So there are some differences. Style CSS is a little bit shorter in the second window than it was on the first. I'm going to make a directory for templates. So there are already some differences in the code that's going to be generated. Here on line 91, it is going to use port 5001, so that's good. We will not have any port conflict at least. Okay, 167 lines here. We'll accept these. Here's a README file again. Again, not sure how accurate this is. Not important for this project. And here's a playwright file that it's working on. This has 66 lines. If I go to window number 1, that file had 59 lines. So again, there are going to be some code differences. Going to create the VENV again. Going to install everything out of that requirements file in the VENV. In my instructions, I should have been more explicit that the virtual environment was already created, called .venv, and just use that. It did not automatically detect that in either window, so it created a VENV on its own, and that's fine. Playwright install. Again, some of those Ubuntu messages, not important. Creating the application now, it's going to be on port 5000. Okay. Jump over to my browser. 5001. Okay, so already here's some differences. The first time around, actually I think the UI looked a lot nicer. It's got some blue bars. UI looked a little bit more inviting. I like the font a little bit better. But let's see if this second iteration works. Okay, there's the first one, flash messages in the upper right. Gonna add a second one here. Okay, so here's the UI for the second one. Here's the UI for the first. It's got a lot of the same notions, but I think the first one looks a little bit cleaner. I like the icons better. I like the color scheme a little bit better. Drag and drop works in both, which is cool. So you can do some quick reordering. Take a look at the database. Here's the table for the to-do, and here's the data. Again, with the order created at, here's all the fields. Okay, so I'm not sure what this proves. Like I mentioned starting out the video, you're seeing more and more people that are using one LLM trying to get the best answer. What I've proven here is the same LLM, if you ask it the same question, might give you a different answer. Here it is with a simple CRUD application, and it created different code to satisfy the requirements. I don't necessarily know which code is better or worse, but at least UI-wise, I do like the first iteration better. So hopefully this was interesting to you. Please remember to comment, like, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.